with all that technical stuff out of the way, let's get started. So we'll be building with AI. Now, traditionally, we've been building about how to use AI within your applications or how to build agents with AI. But in this case, I'm going to work with AI to build software, not build software around AI. You know what I mean? This is very, very basic, very, very rudimentary. If you haven't started doing all of this yet, this is a good starting point. But if you have, some of this might be like, oh, this is not the right way. But when it comes to doing things in software dev, at this phase of innovation, nothing is right. Still, things are still being made, things are still being defined, standards are being defined. So this is one way of getting started. This is the way I've done things to start off, and it's worked for me, and I want to be on this now. But this is a good starting point. All right. So this entire presentation is a website, and the workshop itself is a code lab. So if you want, you can follow along over here on the code lab. The code lab has a specific software or specific project to build with AI. However, I welcome you all to just pick any topic, pick any feature that you've been wanting to build for a while, even a small feature like adding a new page to your existing website or something like that will work. If you don't have an idea in mind, don't worry. The code lab comes with an idea and you can just follow along and you'll be fine. The reason I'm sharing this presentation is obviously so that you can go back and look at it later, but there is an Easter egg in my presentation somewhere. And if you find that Easter egg, you'll get the next step on what to do with that Easter egg. You can find it all the way to the end of this entire day, entire evening, the 9 p.m. whatever. Yeah, you'll know the next step, and the first person who figures out the next step will be the winner of the Easter egg challenge, so to say. Everybody got the links? Yeah, I'm just going to wait for another. Because it's scanned. Okay, moving forward. I see AI as a lot of buzzwords around me. I do not like getting into technical AI because I'm not a mathematician and I don't understand statistics very well, but I do know software development. So when I say LLM, I just think of it as a very, very advanced autocomplete. When it comes to RAGs, I literally think of microfiber cloth. Like, how is microfiber cloth related to AI development? It just doesn't make sense to me. Agentic AI, it's like giving a credit card to AI and letting it run wild. And MCP is fancy way of saying the AI can see my files or it can access this API or whatever. So all of these things actually already exist. It's just more refined for AI to be able to use these things. And these new standards are rapidly evolving. So something new will come out tomorrow. If you're into Android app development, Google has just created a new specifications called A2AI, which is something to do with editing UI using AI and standardizing it across all LLM models going forward. It's still in public review, still a lot to be discovered there, but yeah, things are evolving at a crazy pace. The way I see it is you don't have to remember syntax or think about the perfect syntax anymore as a software engineer. You are thinking more about the architecture of your software. You're thinking more about how to build something in a broader spectrum rather than what to build within that software itself. Obviously, there'll be tweaks to be made. You'll have best practices and things like that. But in general, you're delegating a lot of things into AI now, but you're still governing it so that it doesn't make a mess. The structure of your software matters. So AI becomes a partner in making sure that the structure is right. This is to say that somebody who has just graduated in a non-technical field can pick up AI and start writing software. Sure, they can. They'll make a software, but at what cost? Would they know the best practices or not? Would they just leak out all their secret keys on GitHub and complain that my it is now $100,000 or whatever, even though I've just turned the website on twice in a day. So as software engineers, you're still having those guardrails. You know the structure. You're just letting AI do everything. They keep repeating that word. Okay. With that being said, we are on one of the first steps on the workshop in the code lab as well. Have you ever done a PRD before, or written a PRD before manually? Show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, some of you have. Now, PRD is basically your executive summary, and it defines what you're building, what not to do, what not to do, and very, very high level, right? You're not getting into technical details. Same with the AI agent, your PRD acts as a source of truth. Now, in this case, you don't have to write the PRD from scratch anymore. Feed this into your Gemini CLI or your whatever interface of Gemini you're using, even if the app is fine. Feed this prompt or whatever feature you want to build, and it'll ask you to, it'll generate a PRD for you. And then once you have that PRD ready, save it to that directory in that file. Now, people ask me why that particular directory. It's just my personal preference because I like to have things in a certain structure. You can literally place it anywhere that you want. You can, if you're using Claude, you can put it inside .Claude directory. If you're using everything Gemini, you can put it in the .Gemini directory. But it's really up to you. I like to keep this structure so it's generic. Whichever agent I'm using is aware of .ai, understand the context of that folder. Another thing that I like to do at this stage, usually at the end of the prompt, is add this line called ask me clarifying questions one at a time. There's this ex-Flutter dev from Google who's now into AI space in Sydney. His name is Brett Morgan. I've learned that from him. If you ask your LLM this one line at the end, it'll ask you very good, very detailed questions, one at a time. Maybe have like 10 to 15 questions in that entire context. And then at the end of the day, end of the conversation, generate a very, very nice file, a very, very good response to you rather than just one shot it. So that's optional, of course, but you can add it. Once you have that PRD, we're going to be generating something called agent.md. Now, agent.md acts as the personality. And in this case, we're considering a single agent orchestration. So you're not doing multi-agent orchestration, which means you're just adding one personality for the agent. Something as simple as you're a hardcore vanilla JS purist, don't want to use Node.js or any of those complicated React libraries, or add an action rule that always update the index HTML via tools, never output the HTML on the chat itself. So you're giving it personality, more fine-tuned control of what an agent is capable of doing and what rules it is bound by. But again, this is not hardcore technical level yet. This is also one of the next steps on the code lab. So I'm just probably going to pause at this point and see if you guys have reached that stage on the code lab yet. Show of hands if you're still stuck somewhere or still generating a PRD. And if you need help, I'm around. I'm here to help you out. If you're just not able to get Gemini running, just raise your hands and I'll come and help.
If you have any question, all our organizers can help you out. So
yeah, just in the organizers.
Yeah.
Okay, show of hands if you're not understanding any of this at all. Don't be shy. It can be a little overwhelming, not very overwhelming as well. Okay, how many of you have generated a PRD at least? Okay. Somewhat. You need me to slow down? Am I going too fast?
Yes.
Very slow? Slow down. Okay, so I'll just wait at this point. I'll probably just open the code lab here and show you as well. The font here is a bit small, but you probably already have it on your screen as well. So step one is actually the PRD part. And this is the extra line that I like to add at the end of the prompt for the PRD, asking the clarifying questions one at a time. The best tool for this workshop is anti-gravity because it has all the harness to do all of this within one software. So you could literally just, you have a chat panel on the right, you have an agent which can execute and observe the output at runtime and keep on making changes. We can also use Gemini CLI. Under the hood, both of them use the same models, just different ways of interacting with that same model. And then any of the intelligent products or VS Code, we have the option of using Gemini Code Assist. Again, it still uses the same LLMs, but the harness over here is as less rights, so to say. Each of these will ask you permissions to edit files or write to files where you can perform more complicated tasks if needed. It won't just go crazy and run things on your computer. But yeah, you have the choice of using either of these. The idea is to incorporate Gemini into your workflow, not to create a new workflow for you to use Gemini. All right, PRDs. Are we ready with PRDs? Yeah. Sure, and we have a PRD. Even a basic PRD is fine. I'm just trying to understand how Gemini is working. It doesn't have to be complicated. Step two is creating the agent.md file. Now you might notice there's some discrepancy between the folder structure here and the presentation itself, and that's fine. You can place it wherever as long as you are aware of where the files are going. So this is the prompt I use, and I give it to Gemini to generate an agent.md file. I am not creating any of those files manually. I'm not sitting and writing things in these files. I'm actually using Gemini to create these files for me, and then I use Gemini to read these files and create the software form. Something that I've learned recently in the last week or so, these latest generation LLMs, Gemini 3 and the new Opus 4.6 and Sonnet 4.6 and all these, are not very good with prompts which say no, XYZ, do not do that. They just tend to ignore it. Instead, you have to sort of change your prompt in such a way that you give it, you tell the LLM that use this as a preference over that, instead of outright saying no, don't use that. You'll end up using that more often. I have no idea how that works. Like I said, I'm not an AI engineer. It's just how LLMs are evolving. All right. Agent.md file, has that been generated? So, and agent.md file ready? Is anybody stuck on this step or the previous step? Literally just go to the code lab and copy paste these prompts into your Gemini interface and just work. Okay, what stage have we reached so far? PRDs are done. Like, could I get a bit of idea that PRDs are done in this room? Are the agents done? Or are you close to getting an agent.md file ready? And it's in the right directory. Okay. From here, we're just going to get deeper and technical into the content. we are going to create something called a skill. Skills are handy tools which help AI agents to write things in a very particular way or a very technical way, the way you want it to do it. What it ends up doing is LLM has a vast array of knowledge, right? And there's more than one way to solve a problem. But if you provide a skill file to solve a problem, the LLM ends up choosing that way as the preferred way of doing it. If in case that solution doesn't make sense in the context of the thing that you're producing, it will ask for alternatives. But it will always try to use the skill as your source of truth rather than what it is. It also helps you to stop repeating yourself in your prompts. If you have a skill ready, you can reuse that skill. You can reuse that skill in different projects. So you don't have to copy paste that thing again and again. You just have to ask it to understand the skill from that file. Skill can also be versioned. It is expected that the skill evolves and grows as you develop further, as you understand something much better. I like to version the skills. And then skills can also be remote. Modern day LLMs are smart enough to download skills and use Server.wget to download skills and files from somewhere. And it's actually going one step further. You can install skills on your machines now. It just comes as an NPM bundle or something, and then you can just do a / command as a skill. It becomes an extension, and it just works. It's magical. But yeah, when I built this, I created a brand for my websites. Created a skill out of it. It defines the navigation structure for the website. It defines CSS rules, a lot of stuff. We actually go to that link over there and download that file. You see a very big skill. And the fact that it's at 1.4.0 means it has iterated over time. You won't see the versioning or the history of iteration on that file because that doesn't matter. But this is the latest version of the skill that I want my LLMs to use. So I literally just take that link, I give it to the LLM saying, use this skill and follow this skill like there's no tomorrow to build the brand of the website and follow these guidelines. It defines a whole lot of color tokens, it defines a lot of things. But this is a very big skill. Your skills can be as small as just letting your LLM know how to use local storage in the website, which is what the Code Lab is also doing. Okay, it's a much larger prompt, and it requires your technical expertise to be able to create a skill file. Now, in this case, I have a JavaScript example at the bottom. This was written by hand. It sort of can be generated by an LLM as well, but I wanted my prompt to specifically have an example so that when the skill is generated, the skill also has that example. And when I use that skill, my LLM is forced to use that kind of structure in JavaScript. Skills have also evolved in the last couple of months to have a lot of front matter at the top. Instead of markdown files, you can also use YAML or JSON files. It works absolutely fine in either way. But then it makes it easier for you to maintain your skills, have a description on it, have a version on it, and just let your LLM decide which version of the skill is better suited for this problem. Maybe a solution in 1.2 works better versus 1.4, which is the latest skill. So all of that is now possible. And I'm not covering any of that in this workshop because this is just a starting point. Right. We have agent or any files ready in post projects. Yeah. How about skills? Your skill might change depending on the problem you're trying to solve right now. If you're following the Code Lab strictly, feel free to use this skill. And your responses will differ. If you try to compare the response of the files of the person sitting next to you, there will be huge difference because LLMs obviously are generative in nature. So they end up generating stuff to make you happy, and it knows you as a person rather than the world. So yeah, that's the idea. Okay. Do we have a skill? At least one skill ready. You can go crazy and create like 5 or 6 skills for the problem you're solving right now, but at least one should be ready by now. Okay. And with that, it's time to build. Simple prompt. The prompt over here says paste your content. Obviously, this workshop has not been updated. What you would want to do is use file references in your LLM. If you end up using Copilot ever in your life, it has this weird thing where it references files using hash, the pound symbol, and every other LLM uses @. I have no idea why Microsoft chose that, but that's what it does. We're focusing on Gemini right now, so you can literally just go @ and select the file that comes in after the prompt detects that we're trying to detect the file now. So you have your description of the software at the top, very high level. You're building a task manager for these documents. You link your PRD, you link your agent's personality, you link the skill that you created, one or more, that's fine. And then you give it some structure, some guardrails on what you want it to build. Single HTML file in this case, CSS and mobile first CSS, so it will create your media queries, make sure it's responsive and everything. We want JavaScript to be paid. In fact, if it was up to me, I would just delete JavaScript from existence completely. A lot of those JavaScript stuff can be done in CSS now. Some of the features that need to be in the software, and no frameworks, no build tools. Again, that last line, those last two statements, these days are creating more problems than helping us. So you would want to use a statement like prefer using vanilla JS over custom frameworks like React or Node.js and things like that. That way it understands the context instead of just saying, oh, don't want me to use frameworks, JavaScript is the framework. But yeah, take this from, modify it according to what you've generated so far or what your idea is, put it back in Gemini and let the magic happen. This is the part where we're actually generating everything. People out there like to call it vibe coding. I hate that term. This is vibe coding, yes, technically you're vibing with the AI agent, but I did come up with a term for that. Okay? Yeah, I hate the term vibe coding. We're actually building something using our own knowledge. It's just that we have a nice sidekick which is super fast. It's like offloading work to a couple of junior developers or interns. Anyway, this is the last big step of the workshop. If you are here, if you have something generated, you're pretty much done with the workshop. And now you can rinse and repeat these processes to build better agents, your template files, to improve your PRD. Your PRD will also evolve over time, or your PRD can split into multiple PRDs, like functional PRDs. I want this requirement PRD, requirement 2 PRD, requirement 3 PRD. And that way you can structure your software generation into features, into independent sessions, so to say. Then you can have plethora of skills as well. Like literally, another friend of mine is building his own orchestration software, and he has over 100 skills just around TCP, and then another 30 or something around unit testing. So you can go as deep as you want. You can make LLMs. You can literally make your LLM do all the grunt work. But the knowledge is still coming from your brain. You've not just simply relying on what is being done here. What's the time? 6:30. Okay. What I might just do is talk a little bit about some of the concepts, and then if we have time. Okay. Who has done ADR records manually in Confluence? Do you love it or do you hate it? Or do you hate it or do you really hate it? Your LLM can generate really good ADRs and put them in a very nice chronological order. And because it's your site, it has all the session history. So your ADRs can just keep on getting updated. In fact, your agent can have a personality, or you can have a specific agent just for making sure that your ADRs are automatically updated every time a change is made. A requirement has changed, update the ADRs. You switch from SQL to NoSQL like Mongo, update the ADR, add the decision why this was not. We'll follow a very basic key structure of ADR, but at least we'll have the content which you can use elsewhere if you need to. You can also even ask it to do basic SWOT analysis or pro response analysis. It'll output everything from our file. MCP. So that's one of the biggest buzzwords right now. It's a protocol for AI agents to be able to access APIs easily. That's how I look at it. You don't have to worry about authentication. You don't have to worry about data getting leaked. MCP as a protocol helps LLMs connect to APIs without having to authenticate and do those things. And one of the biggest things that MCP is doing right now is making sure that your outdated LLMs can have most up-to-date knowledge. There's this website or an MCP service. I wouldn't call it server, but service called Context 7. Has anybody ever heard of Context 7 over here? Right. Context 7, it's an MCP server in a way, but what it does is it allows you to add up-to-date documentation or up-to-date knowledge of anything that is out there. Pretty much anything. Let's say you're using Gemini 1 right now, because Gemini 2 or Gemini 3, for whatever reason, is not accessible. Gemini 1 won't know anything about latest Kotlin 2.3. But if you're able to ask Gemini 1 to connect to Context 7's Kotlin MCP server, it will use that as the knowledge base and do everything that Kotlin 2.3 can do, even though Gemini itself has no knowledge about it. So it creates this nice bridge between knowledge cutoff versus today, and make sure that you work with both of you, both AI agents and you, are at par when it comes to knowledge. Yeah, so less hallucinations, less chances of your LLM using deprecated or completely removed APIs in your software, so that at build time you don't face, oh, this function does not exist. Context 7 is also available as an NPM package. If you install that, in most cases, while interacting with your chat interface of the LLM, write a question, and at the end of it, just say use Context 7. And it somehow just figures out that I have to look up the documentation of this particular thing through Context 7. It connects to the MCP server and figures it out. Yeah.
How is the actual token efficiency of that specific token?
Of Context 7? Yes. I don't know. But from what I have understood is that individual AI agents like Claude or Gemini manage the token for you. So if you're using Gemini CLI, at the end of it, when you quit the session, it gives you a nice list of how much token was used in the context, and how much of the tokens were reused, and how much cache data help you save the token limits. So it's on them to manage the token, not so much on you. So if you're referring to MCP files and adding context to it, they will figure out how to best manage their tokens in this case. If you're just writing plain text queries and adding files to it, then yes, the token management is on it. When it comes to MCP servers and using context 7, but going back to something that you've already talked about, the Gemini, CLI, and Claude Core and all of these will figure out how to manage tokens best. That being said, LLMs are progressing really, as you probably have already seen. Claude has started giving worse response by taking more tokens to get to the same response. So it's something that has changed on the Claude side, not necessarily on your prompting side. And it's costing you. Does that sort of answer your question? Okay, we can have chat later. Okay. Okay, I'm just gonna end it slowly now. I'm guessing most of you have generated some software at the end of it. If not, you're close to getting it. If not, you would want to try it again later, which is absolutely fine. We are not focusing so much on syntax anymore. We're focusing more on the intent of what we want to build. We are governing the architecture styles that we want. We are telling AI that I do not want to use this, but I'd rather use that. We're not sitting down and fussing about the if-else ladders over there or the switch case ladder. You can always go ahead and change all of that once the code is generated. So you don't have to actively think about that anymore when you're writing a feature. And I honestly feel this is how engineering is going to evolve into. Like, instead of worrying about AI as a replacement of software engineers, it's a tool in our bed that you can use to augment your productivity. Obviously, a lot depends on how good you are as well, because the more experience, a 25-year experienced software engineer would know a lot more about systems than a fresh graduate. So they can use the tool much better than a fresh graduate, but at least the tool is available to everyone and they can start building a stuff. Build with intent, lead with structure. That's how I see it. That's the future of software engineering. If you want to look deeper into any of these things that I talked about, there's some information. Ravi in her workshop will be talking more about MCP protocols, because I think her workshop is ADK and MCP server chaining. So that should help you understanding MCP a bit better. Nope. And that's it. That's the end of my workshop. We take a couple of questions now, or we can have a chat later. Now? Yep.
What do you do when it keeps getting the error that the model framework has available for the model on the server unavailable? That's it.
And that's when I say that. It seems like your account has gone. It's yeah. So the servers are open, but nothing on you. They're not valid. So maybe because everyone over here is something is like yeah. Also, pretty much everyone's about the same topic. Seems really trying to any other questions? I will not say questions. We can have a chat later. That is an interesting question. Just for the audience here, question is it better to have one long scale or multiple scales.
Pick up.
I think it points out to the fact that software development is instead of services coming into it's taking out the system of right? So creating skills is very simple. You want your skills to be very precise and very important. But at the same time, you don't want the skills to contribute to so it should be let's solve your problem. It should be so long that it's one doing a problem solving. Yeah. It is frustrating. It will happen that two skills contribute to each other or something in you later that's all making the state of complete all the core usage also change your okay. One more question. Yeah, yes. Any more questions? Please, before we come to give a word.
Yeah.
It's two-part question. Part one is what happens to data privacy when it comes to this, and there's been reports of anti-gravity taking up a lot of your information and using that to train Gemini further. So answer that first. We're using the free models right now. We are not paying for it. What Google has maintained so far is that if you're using the free models, your data can be used for training, no matter how you access it. You access them through AI Studio, you access through any of these harnesses, it can be used. But if you start using the same models through their managed vertex AI on GCP, they guarantee it will not be used. So that's the enterprise route they want you to take if you want your data to not be used for the training of these models, because now you're paying for the privilege of it. Does that make sense? Okay. Second question was using local LLMs or a certain LLM which has been fine-tuned for better software development or something. You can totally do that. I do not know how to set up that harness in any of these tools because I've never bothered to be honest. But I'm pretty sure you can do that. You can set up your LLM, your data remains local, anti-gravity, or I don't know if Gemini CLI can do it, maybe it can. Gemini Code Assist probably cannot do it because it's literally meant to come in with just Gemini and assist you to code. Anti-gravity has the options to change LLMs, so I'm sure you'll be able to set up a local there. Even CLI. It's just a way of saying it.
With Vertex, we use a model garden, comes with the models.
Okay. Are you talking specifically about localism on your machine? So,
Yeah, the main models like that.
okay. I'll let the GCP expert discuss that with you. I have no idea how many of that works. I'm going to take other questions afterwards, just in the interest of time. But happy to have a chat later as well.